I did see a tweet from yourself, actually. We'll put up on the screen now that says people actually think Amorim should be sacked before he's had a preseason or a transfer window. It's like sacking Tarantino because he can't make Hollyoaks win an Oscar. Obviously, a little bit of comedic fun in there, but a lot of people this weekend after United lost to Wolves were calling for Amorim to be sacked. And by your tweet, you just think that's an outrageous take.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen things like even a lot of it's in the United Stand community. I'm not going to lie, but I've seen people saying, "Does Amorim deserve a transfer window? Are Man United now worse than they were before?" And I'm sort of like, I'm stunned. Like, I'm actually stunned. I mean, of course, have you never heard of the theory things need to get worse before they get better? Do we actually have United fans who thought it was going to get better in the first 6 months? Like, Rashford and Antony have been loaned out successfully, but they weren't replaced. This is Ten Hag's team who can't play Amorim's system, and he's had one player who's a 20-year-old. The Premier League is ridiculously competitive this season. We've changed system halfway through the season when we were already rubbish. And surprise, surprise, things have got worse. They're not as good as I thought they would be, and they're terrible. But it's a little bit like what happened with Spurs last night. I've seen Spurs fans, I've had enough, just sack Ange. And I'm like, I get it. I get the frustration. It's hard. It's really, really hard. But surely common sense has to kick in at some point and go, you're not sacking Ange if he wins the Europa League. You barely win a cup of tea, and he could win you the Europa League and put you in the Champions League, and you'll all be bloody building a statue. So I understand the frustration, but it's the frustration going to the level of let's sack Amorim that I'm just sort of like, that is wild. That is wild. I mean, who sacks a manager who's not had a pre-season and a transfer window? Potter's not doing very well at West Ham. It's the same thing. Like, he's inherited a squad built for, was it Lopetegui? He's got a very distinctive style of play. West Ham aren't going to get relegated. And of course, they're losing a lot of games. And Man United should never be in the position they're in, but it's scary that it keeps coming back to the manager, because I watched the game on Sunday. I watched the game on Thursday. Thursday, we're going to win the bloody Champions League. Sunday, sack the manager again. And it's literally, if I could be asked, clip tweets and video clips of people losing it on Thursday and then losing it in a different way on Sunday. And I'm like, we just played 120 minutes on Thursday, and that is our reserves. It's not the reserves. It's not the reserves, Mark. Technically, is Bruno a reserve? He played for half an hour. Like, he might be a bloody reserve, but I tell you what, he's knackered. Two kids are not youth players. Eriksen and Lindelof are definitely reserves. And we lost 1-0 to a bloody good free kick when we should have scored ourselves. So people are just impatient, I think. But Amorim's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't see them sacking him, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. The one thing that I will say about the majority of people that push the sacking him notion, once they're lent on a little bit, so you just lean on them a little bit, there is this element of, and I want to make sure I say this in the right way, their arguments just typically stem from words like, you've got to have high standards. So, okay, I get that as a kind of buzzwords phrase. But what does that mean in reality? Who's the replacement going to be? What system do they play? Do you think it's right to now undo another 9 months of work of recruitment because there's been recruitment work done in terms of scouting, what kind of players do we want? We've just done 6-7 months of training with the current squad, a lot of which will still be here next year. There'll be a good 60% that will still be here next year. You're going to undo the training methods again? Are we going to go in a new direction? Are we going to keep with the same system, but just bring a different coach in to manage it? Like, what's your plan of action? Because the one challenge I have for anyone who wants him gone is your remedy cannot be what we've done 6 times prior, which is sack this coach, bring someone new, scrap everything and start again. Because that approach is the reason that we're here 12 years later. Yeah. Because we've, it's because that's how the poor recruitment always happens. So as much as I understand people's frustration and their anger and their annoyance, and I do get it, and I do understand, and I get every single element of it, I do look at it and think, well, what's the solution? For me, I'm more than happy for him to have, right now, maybe my mind will change in a year, But I'm very happy for him to have a couple of pre-seasons. I'm happy for him to have his squad built and then to see where we are. And again, my argument and rationale is just, if we all put our subjectivity aside on what we like and what we don't like, that's what we've not done once in 12 years. And you'll always hear these people say, but it's not how Madrid operate. It's not how Bayern Munich operate. But I don't remember the last time those clubs were in our position. After 12 years of not challenging for a league title, 12 years of neglect, 12 years of predominantly poor recruitment. It's so difficult to look at what they do when they have a brilliant squad that's slightly underperforming and they sack a manager quickly. The new guy comes in and they win a league. That's not the same scenario that Man United are in. And I think for me, that's the element that I find so difficult about the conversation, is that people are often comparing apples to a piece of coal. And there isn't, it's just, I'm not even saying that I'm right. I'm not saying that my solution is going to work, but in the discourse surrounding it, it's just, you're shut down as you got low standards. So no, I don't have low standards. I'm not compromising the goal. I just believe it's going to take us a while, a long time, in fact, to get back to the top. And the manager made us a promise, Mark. And I think a lot of United fans forget this. He told us that we'd look like this for the first 12 months or so. He literally said exposures, those are games where we don't go over the line. There'd be games where we get embarrassed. There'd be suffering. And I think a lot of us thought he meant the players are going to suffer to get to the fitness levels. Now, he literally meant the fans. It's going to be horrible, but there'll be dividends at the end of it. And look, I might end up being wrong. I'm just willing to go through the suffering to see what might be at the end of what might be at the end of the tunnel. I'm willing to take the risk. And I just think some Man United fans clearly don't have the stomach for it, but they don't seem to have a solution either.
No, and I also think that, what are these United fans actually holding the context to? Because he hasn't had a pre-season and he hasn't had a transfer window. And those are two big ingredients. And next season, we can probably have a more in-depth chat about progression, etc. But standards is a silly argument. I have standards of Man United. We should win the league every year and we should be in the Champions League competing for that every year. Standards aren't real. There's context to standards. And, I might perform brilliantly on a United Stand 10 o'clock show from Monday to Thursday. But if I go out on Thursday night and get hammered and I'm hungover at 10 o'clock, my standards will not be the same. So context has to be there. So if I perform brilliantly on Thursday night and, exhaust myself, and then on Sunday, I'm basically hungover, I'm not going to perform. So people's standards, you don't set the standards is what I'm trying to say. Amorim doesn't set the standards at the moment. The players don't set the standards. The club set the standards, and we don't agree with the club. So why are we talking about standards when people hate the Glazers? They don't trust Sir Jim Radcliffe. The standards are being set by the club, and yet Amorim is being judged on those standards, and I think that's unfair. I think you start judging Amorim when context is given to a proper pre-season, but also, do they deliver the players he wants? Because if he doesn't get the players he wants, then you can't hold him to your standards next year because he hasn't been given the players he needs as well. So people don't want the context, because there are, unfortunately, some very vocal minority people in our fan base. And I say minority in the sense that, they don't hold the opinion of fans in the ground who support Amorim, who want to be proved right, or just want to be loud, or want to just be somebody that thinks, oh, this tweet will bang because I'm going to say something really controversial. Unfortunately, you couple that with an impatient fan base and they can get a bit of traction. But Amorim's not going anywhere. We know he's not going anywhere.
No, I agree. And look, listen, everyone, some people will mean it. Some people will think sacking him is going to work. The problem I have is most of these people thought that sacking Jose would work, that sacking Oli would work, that sacking Ten Hag would work. It's almost that action. They're living in this, they're laboring under a delusion that we are still Man United of 20 years ago, or that we are, yes, historically we're in that ballpark with Munich's and Madrid's and everybody else, but they can just sack managers and rotate them out and bring somebody new in, because the clubs by and large are run well. The squads by and large are balanced. They have a footballing ethos at the football club. They have a standard in that dressing room. And if an element isn't working, they can just pull that out and plug something new in. And like a plug and play solution. Now, I want that with our head coaches. I want a bit of a, from a business phrase, I want a plug and play solution. The problem is that only works that only works when everything else surrounding in the club, like you say, is up to the right standard. And I had this argument a couple of weeks ago with a friend of mine, very good salesman, who just basically doesn't do this managers need time nonsense. I go into my new jobs and I deliver. But I pointed out to him, that's because you have the products are there, the showrooms are there, the marketing is there, the brand name you're working for gets you through the door for these meetings. You walk in and invariably, you've always said to me, you've got brilliant teams and great staff working there. He's like, yes, and I'll deliver. But take away all that infrastructure and go to a business, see if you hit those same numbers straight away. He's like, well, no, I wouldn't. So then wouldn't you need time to build that infrastructure to get those same numbers? And he just gave me this look, like, he's like, yeah, I get what you mean. And that's my problem with you. And some people will say, like this comment here, and I get it, will say, sounds like excuses, but it isn't an excuse. Again, when you say it sounds like an excuse, you've got to give more MPD than it's excuses and you're lowering standards. That's not an argument. That's just words to this point. Explain why my argument is wrong and explain why your view, present your argument as to why it's the better solution for Man United. That is what, as fans, that is what the discourse has got to be. Not I'm right, you're wrong, you've got low standards, I have high standards, or you're a fake fan and don't care about the club. Cool, let's drop all that bullshit. Tell me why my argument is wrong. Tell me why your argument is going to make us more successful in a quicker period of time. Present the argument. That's the one thing I will say, Mark, I don't see enough of amongst fans. Whether you're in or out, right or wrong, there is very rarely any challenging of the arguments that people are putting out. It's often just attacks or belittlement, as opposed to, well, I get where you're coming from there, but I think, I got one friend, Danny, who will say that he doesn't like the style of football, thinks if we'd have gone for a manager that plays 4-3-3 and invested in him, it'd be less overhaul of the club, means we can get back to the top quicker. I can buy into that argument, right? I get it. However, we've started now. So now undertaking your plan means we're going backwards again, right? So look, and one thing you don't want to try and do is erode the trust of the players that we are trying to move forward. So I do get it, but I would listen. You could say it's an excuse. You can say he should be sacked or doesn't deserve a preseason, but you have to, my bro. Okay. You have to present an argument behind that. You can't just say words like this. You've got to give us an argument, in my personal opinion. Viewers, we'd love to get your takes on that, though, in the comments section below. So please get that done for us right now. Get the like button smashed as well and get this stream shared across your